Hello there, and welcome to my social pathology video, by which you understand the underlying mechanism of today's social problems, and also you can reconfirm your life direction. This time, I would like to discuss why Mr. Trump is still so popular today. My name is Dr. Samurai. I am a professor specialized in international social pathology, which is social disease can be seen in multiple countries. International social pathology. And also an active prison counselor of 20 years experience, especially in charge of difficult inmates who cause problems. And also one time Nobel Peace Prize Award official honorable guest for my peace work against nuclear weapons. As usual, first I will introduce you general information briefly, and then like to move on to our main discussions. Okay, let's start. Today's topic is why Mr. Trump is still so popular with so many people, right? And we hear here and there that he is now ready to be for the next presidential election and stuff. On the other hand, somebody said he doesn't eat so much, so he is worried about his physical conditions and so on. But it does not change the fact that he is very popular. One of my 118 videos, I did analysis of Mr. Trump's personality as being very close to that of authoritarian personality. Authoritarian or authoritarianism in politics means controlling others' freedom, you being at the center of the power. Authoritarian people also get along with a handful of other authoritarian people. It is all my inference, but Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin and all those other authoritarian people got along with each other very well, right? Because authoritarian people get along with each other. It's a very interesting thing. Authoritarian comes originally from autokratos. This is a Latin, I think. That means right to possess. So authoritarian itself originally means possessing something. So authoritarian politician possesses the country's political powers and political machines as his own and use it for his own interests. That's what I wanted to say in my previous video. And did you watch a video called Rules of Demagogue? It is, pretty much pointing out a possibility of GOP being fascism. And there are 4 points they are talking about. Those who use demagogue. Demagogue is like manipulate. One is like a create enemy. So that something inconvenient happens, you can point to that enemy. And number 2, making everything very simple and make them feel like you are the only one who can solve the problem. And number 3, make the democracy and the media and Congress as being your enemy. Those legitimate social system you deny because you want to do your own things without going through complicated system. And number four is like must have like a cult like personality and appeal emotion. In the end, all the power goes to his families and stuff. So that video, the rules of demagogue, in spite of all these negative factors that Mr. Trump carries, he is still very popular with his supporters, right? His supporters are like followers of cult leaders. As Mr. Trump, there are two major reasons. One is he promised doing all these things, and he actually did it by using the right of executive order president carries, right? And out of those many things, he cut a significant amount of tax on above average rich people and deregulating industry so that they can do things freely without worrying about regulations that they have to obey. So defunding regulation agencies at the same time. And anti-abortion and the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem chose Supreme Court judges, which is to his like. Also, he set up these tariffs to protect U.S. industries. And he also said a whole bunch of things which is politically incorrect and broke so many taboos by using Twitters. All these things, like cutting the taxes for rich people, deregulating those basic industries, and tariffs to protect U.S. industries. All those things he himself belonged to. He is a real estate mogul, right? So he's not one of those who is good at ITs and stuff, right? His business itself is kind of old type of business. So all these things make things easier for himself. You might say, what about tariffs to protect U.S. industries? But this too. He thinks United States is his possession, right? So he wants to protect his own territory. That does not necessarily mean the people working in that sector are on his mind. His own thing he wants to protect. And he just wanted to mess up, destroy all the complicated social systems. He wanted to break the government and those rules because he wants to do freely what he really likes to do. These things that I have mentioned now match with the interest of his supporters. Especially, rich people, they don't have to pay large portion of his tax. But the great thing is, he also indirectly came to support those manufacturing and primarily industry people by putting a high tariff and removing all regulations to do things more freely. Those people who have been ignored and have not been paid attention to, like left alone by this progressing society, they felt they were paid attention to by this Mr. Trump, Mr. President Trump. And please understand this. When you are a student or when you are a company member where you are not accepted with respect, no niche for you to feel safe, either at school or at the company, how would you feel? Probably you would feel F with this school, F with this company, right? Inside of yourself, this destructive urge coming up, right? And Mr. Trump was doing that, destroying all the convention social institute. Mr. Trump was destroying. So normal people who wants to live a peaceful life, they rejected that lives of ups and downs every day under Mr. Trump. But those who are filled with dissatisfaction and frustration and stress and was almost to explode themselves. They felt so good seeing that Mr. Trump was destroying everything. They felt rather good by his destructive acts and destructive personality. So they don't care even if he played around with the porn stars and get laid with the wives of his friends or whatever. That they like too. That destructive personalities. They have been waiting for someone to do. So, major thing business-wise. Big tax cut on rich people and deregulation and high tariffs on U.S. products. By doing that, those rich people, middle class people, and working class people, like white people, they got together. This was a miraculous feat, we must say, by what Mr. Trump did for his own self-interest, accidentally covered their interest too. So it is much easier for them to live under Mr. Trump's control. And he also destroyed all those things, all those politically correct things they hated so much because they are not accepted. He destroyed. That's one thing. Oh, by the way, if you like this kind of story, please click that yellow and green Good Luck Charm logo. And also I put my best video playlist at the description section, so please check it out. And I said there are two things, right? Number two is as important as covering their business interest, which that video, the rules of the demagogue, also mentioned. That is his cult leader like personality. He'll be one of those people too. When I was younger, I was on the more radical side, as most young people are, who are raised those authoritarian families. They either way force their parental values on them. It could be direct oppression, or it could be more subtle manipulation. When they do things they like, they love them. But when they didn't produce expected result, just ignores. Either way, they have to kill their true voices to survive in the family. and must follow the parents' values without knowing it. So, of course, they have this anger. They carry this anger and frustrations because they are not living themselves, right? To those people, those singers or actors or leader of gang groups or whatever, symbol of power, they are attracted to beyond our imagination. You know, there is this very famous Japanese singer called Eikichi Yazawa, whom every Japanese knows. He is still active singer and still very popular. He's like a charisma, cult leader. Those tough boys who used to be a young, biker gangs and stuff, they put his name sticker on their bikes or, cars and stuff because of the way he climbed up to be very successful and rich as a rock singer. At his concerts, those people who go there are, wearing like the same type of fashion and put their hair in a slicked back, because he was the symbol of bad boys, So it was some kind of religion. So it went to a level that when somebody says some negative things about this Mr. Eikichi Yazawa, those serious followers even fight with this unknown person only because he said something negative about this Mr. Eikichi Yazawa, who doesn't even know this person directly. You understand this? Those who was carrying anger and stress, they are attracted to a person with absolute power. This is also the mechanics authoritarian people has, because they were raised by the authoritarian parents. Ironically, they are attracted super authoritarian person with the superpower that nobody can mess with. By being a follower and fan of this person, they also feel like they became strong. It's the same as those Yakuza members. And I think Mr. Trump has that too. At the glance, he looks Mr. America, right? It's a blonde hair, strong, physical appearance, always expensive jacket and ties. That's what symbolizes strong white America, right? The very symbol it. So, in addition to all those interests that his policy is covered, those who are angry about what is going on in the society, the Mr. Trump had strong attraction because of the absolute power he had at the time when he was in the office. All the other national leaders came over to flatter with him, including Prime Minister Abe. He was the most flattering person, I think, raised by authoritarian environment. I'm telling you as a specialist in social pathology. But these two things, business interest plus absolute power he showed. He doesn't care about all those criticism, all those scandals. He didn't care, right? That strength of destroying everything in his way, that made him guru to those who are living dissatisfactory lives. And they are the ones who still wishes he could come back to power, and who really believed what he said, like voter fraud. They still believe that. But scientifically and practically, that level, 7 million votes, that's not the size that can be done by fraud. Because if you do that, there's gotta be substantial evidence somewhere. That is that level. Even bigger difference than when he won an election against Ms. Clinton. Okay? You cannot lie this size of voting differences. But, because he was raised under very highly controlling father, which is written in his autobiography. When his dad comes to the dinner table, everybody stopped talking stuff. He is the man. Everybody became quiet. So he has established this habit of lying to get away from the responsibility for what he is done. Because otherwise he must be punished each time. To avoid that, that was necessary skill to survive under that scary father, especially when he was younger. So this voter fraud thing comes from the same mechanics that he established when he was a kid, blamed by his father. He automatically blames others to avoid, to shift the responsibility to others. But all those followers, Trump supporters, believes in that because they love him. They love his business. They love his destructive character. Anything he does, even if he murdered someone on the camera, I think they stick with him. So many people carried this psychological trauma, which was not treated from childhood. I was one of them when I was younger, as I told you, so I do understand how they feel. They want to feel the same excitement again, to live in society under guru. So between Democratic people and Mr. Trump's supporters can never find common ground between those two. That is why Ms. Liz Cheney was ousted, and that is why Ms. Taylor Greene still send love calls to Mr. Trump. And that is why great number of GOP members were also brainwashed by him, I believe. Because I do know many Japanese politicians do belong to authoritarian types too, because their fathers were like that. So many Japanese politicians are, in right wings too, although they kind of cover up. Japanese politicians of the Liberal Democratic Party, though, But anyway, that is it. So today's value is why Mr. Trump is still as popular as he was active and incumbent, because he took care of the business of his supporters and feelings of his supporters, including the members of GOP. And this is unshakable. But lastly, I like to say, who knows, he might be nice. I may be able to get along with him. But I am now at the stage that I would like to do right things for people and for the future of this planet Earth and for the nature of this miracle planet. I took those truths over my personal trauma. Like I said, sectionalism and biophobias are destroying the world and this planet. And America First is representative of sectionalism that leads only to competitions and conflicts with other nations, and deregulating all those rules once made is going to complete the destruction of the environment. So based upon those two things, I think his coming back is dangerous to the peace of this planet. Although he might be charming and nice person once you get close to. But even Mr. Hitler and Stalin and Mao Zedong, all those people known as dictators, were nice to the people who were nice to them. But once they were a little bit off of their expectations, they get cut off. Like all those military executives and all those other people who once were in the White House get rid of. And in the end, all he trusted was his family member, right? So this is all for today. I would like you to consider my perspective in your own mind. But if you like this kind of stories, please click that red samurai logos and check out the ending scene playlist if you like. Up until next time, please enjoy peaceful and wonderful time and cherish each day. Okay, bye bye now.